The judge in former President Trump's civil fraud case said he would try to issue a ruling by today. New York Attorney General Letitia James is asking for a $370 million fine and a lifetime ban on the Trump Organization working in the state's real estate industry. Former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Tom Dupree joins us now. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to get through all of the former president's various pending legal matters in 5 minutes, but we're going to make our best effort. Tom, it's so great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Let's put a full screen up on the screen for our viewers to see Trump's legal troubles as they currently are known. 4 criminal, 2 civil. All right? We have upcoming rulings. Control room, go to that next graphic. In Trump cases. That is the New York civil fraud trial and presidential immunity. And, Tom, you also know next week the Supreme Court will hear oral arguments on the 14th Amendment and whether the former president's name should be stricken from primary or general election ballots. All right, that's a little bit of an intro. What would you like to jump into first? What do you think is the most interesting or possibly poses the greatest jeopardy to the former president?
Well, there's certainly no shortage of options here, Major. As
None.
you and then the control room ably portrayed, the president faces legal challenges on multiple fronts. Some are civil threats, some are political threats. On the civil side, I think the biggest challenge he faces right now is this imminent decision in New York in the civil fraud trial. I have no doubt that that trial judge, who has already made his views of former President Trump's business practices known, is going to drop the hammer on the former president. I think he's going to impose a very substantial monetary sanction. I think there's a very good chance that he places severe restrictions on the former president and maybe his family members' ability to do business in the state of New York. So I think that's the most immediate threat he faces on the civil front, but there's no shortage of threats on other fronts as well.
And, Tom, as you know, that's one that aggravates him to the core, the former president. He has raged about this case even more than the Eugene Carroll case, just recently decidedly against the former president.
It really does. And certainly we got a taste of that during the trial itself, when he would attend the trial and he would make statements and he would irritate the judge and he would attack the judge. So this really cuts at the core of how he has presented himself historically as a businessman, of one of great success, of great wealth, because so much of what the attorney general is arguing here is that he's inflated his assets, he's inflated his wealth. He may not be as rich as he really claims. And as we've seen, that really does strike at his core.
Let's talk about the 14th Amendment case and this absolute immunity, because they fall clearly within your bailiwick of legal expertise. The president is arguing that he should enjoy, and every president should enjoy, absolute immunity from prosecution in perpetuity. Is there any constitutional foundation for that argument?
Not for the extent of immunity that he's demanding. There certainly is a constitutional basis for a more limited scope of immunity. We've seen that with regard to other presidents. President Nixon, President Clinton had issues with immunity, but there's no constitutional basis.
In the scope of the office and official duties, there is some protection.
That's right, and also in civil cases. This, of course,
can't be harassed by that while in office.
Exactly, that you can defer those types of things because judges are cognizant of the burdens that it places on a sitting president to defend himself and while in office. However, there is not a constitutional precedent for the sweeping scope of immunity that former President Trump is demanding, namely immunity from criminal prosecution for pretty much anything he did when he was in office. I don't think he's going to win on this argument.
What about the 14th Amendment? The Supreme Court wants to take this case on. There'll be oral arguments. There have been lots of briefs filed. Where do you think that case lands, and what do you think the Supreme Court is most likely to do? Dodge it or get directly involved?
I think the Supreme Court will get directly involved. I think they will decide this. I don't think they have any choice, frankly. And as far as which way...
Because they need to send a clear signal to all the other states.
They do. You can't have a situation, as we do now, where you have different states, different courts taking different approaches, some disqualifying him under one standard, some saying disqualification doesn't apply. This is why we have the Supreme Court, to resolve these types of conflicts and confusion in the lower courts. As far as what I think they're going to decide, my strong hunch is that they are going to reverse the Colorado Supreme Court's decision disqualifying Trump. I think they're going to say that this just isn't how the amendment works. This is not the way that you would disqualify someone from the ballot, so they will allow him to remain on the ballot.
Do you think in that decision the court will render any opinion on as whether the president is or isn't an insurrectionist?
My guess is they will not render an opinion on that one. Look, I can promise you that there's not a single justice on that court who wants to get involved in this case. This is kind of the hot potato of all cases. I think the court realizes it pays a slight institutional price anytime it dives into the political waters. They were not looking to take this case. As I said, I don't think they had a choice, but I don't think they're going to want to get within 1,000 feet of the question whether former President Trump is an insurrectionist.
I bet you're right about that. Tom
We'll see.
Dupree, thank you so very much.